All right, Matt, so we're going to get into another episode of Parry and Counter, and this time it's not going to be a fan question because it's something that's in the news, and we're going to try and attack this one from a couple of different angles because today it was brought out by MMA Fighting. Damon Martin was the one that wrote up the article for them, so credit where credit is due, and the title of this article is UFC champion Jon Jones arrested for aggravated DWI, negligent use of a firearm in Albuquerque. Matt, obviously, this isn't the first time that we've seen Jon Jones in legal hot water. And I mean, he's had different issues ranging back quite a ways. Of course, the most famous or infamous of them in 2015. He was sentenced to quite a bit of time of probation. He also had a case last year in 2019 that ended up, he took a plea deal. I know a lot of people talked about that one. It was a 90-day suspended sentence there. But this is more important than just some of the prior transgressions because it's become a pattern.
So, you know when, Tony and Khabib, when their fight week's coming up, and people start retweeting, Khabib pulling out due to injury, but it's from, 3 years ago? That's what I thought this was when I first saw it, and that's why I kind of joked to Craig. I was like, oh no, the dates do line up. Because that's what I thought it was. I thought somebody retweeted a past transgression, if you will, of Jon Jones. But no, this is just a yearly occurrence, I guess, where every single year we get to think, how's he going to get stripped of the title now? And it's unfortunate, because this is kind of in the story of his career. The only guy who can beat Jon Jones 10 out of 10 times is himself. And that story just keeps on happening over and over and over again. And we've seen, as he's getting a little bit older, his performances might not be as spectacular as they were. But we thought that, maybe he is maturing a little bit. Every time he said he was going to fight someone, he was booked with them in a month. He was fairly active. And it seemed like, okay, Jon Jones has finally reached the age. He's about, 35?
32.
30. Oh, wow. So he's younger than I thought.
32, 33.
Okay, so he's in his 30s now. He's actually starting to grow up a little bit, and we might finally see the best years of Jon Jones. That's not going to happen anymore. Because whether it be PED violations, him breaking the law, there's really no extent as to how far he's going to go. And the UFC hasn't really done him any favors. I know that they stripped him of the title the first time, but the UFC loves to use Jon Jones getting arrested in all of their promos. So if you're not going to promote that kind of behavior, how about we take that stuff out of our Daniel Cormier trilogy fights? I get you want to market a fight the proper way, but marketing a fight by bringing up the fact that one fighter's been arrested a lot of times really is the best way of doing it.
Yeah, and I mean, if you really want to get into the article, according to arrest records obtained by MMA Fighting on Thursday, Jones was picked up just past 1 a.m. local time based on booking records. He's already been released from custody. He was arrested for aggravated DWI, driving while intoxicated, as well as negligent use of a firearm, possession of an open container, and driving with no proof of insurance. And, the 2015 incident where he got into the accident and what have you, that was also in New Mexico. Just bad things seem to follow him around in New Mexico.
Do you know what I'd do if I was Jon Jones? Because I'm going to go to a limb and say Jon Jones' bank account's a little bit bigger than mine. How about you hire a driver? Because every single Jon Jones incident stems from him being in a car. He ran a red light, hit a woman, broke her arm, ran away from his car afterwards. Where was he? Oh, he was in a vehicle. He got arrested for street racing in New Mexico. You have to be in a car to do that. This, last year, if I'm Jon Jones' manager, if I'm his agent, if I'm his friend, I don't know why you wouldn't get him to pay some guy $50,000 a year just to drive you around, because all of your problems, as of late at least, have been you getting behind the wheel when you're, this time intoxicated. So just such a terrible look for the sport, really. And a guy who, there's not a lot of people who have transcended MMA who have been able to translate into the mainstream media. Jon Jones is one of those few. When he beat DC the second time, he was on Good Morning America the next week, and he was doing a bunch of stuff with fans. He's high-fiving Michael Strahan, and everyone's just focusing about how good of a person he is and how, he's this dominant champion. And then this is just another example of no. Charles Barkley said it best. Athletes shouldn't be your role models. Your role models should be your parents, because they're the ones you should really look up to. Athletes are always going to be flawed, and Jon Jones is one of the more flawed athletes.
And it's the thing where you look at the rest of the UFC champions right now. It's not like Valentina Shevchenko or Amanda Nunes or Kamaru Usman are doing things like this. No. It seems to, and it's tough to say, but it seems to be Jon Jones. It's almost like, mark your calendar, because it's probably going to be a yearly occurrence. Yep. And we saw it with, he's coming back, he gets a chance against Alexander Gustafsson, boom, we have to move an event because of the picogram thing. Now, they've changed the testing because of that and other different issues around that. It's just going to be interesting. And if you're the UFC, what do? Do you go back to what you did in 2015 where you strip them, then you make them fight for an interim title, then you make them fight for the title? What do you do in this?
I have no idea, because I'd say 3 strikes and you're out, but Jon Jones struck out about 4 times now. He's out for 4, because like they keep on giving him these chances, and it's not like they're giving him chances and then making him fight his way back up. They're giving him these chances, and then the second he's off, whether it be parole, off of his suspension, like they're just throwing him back into a title fight. So there's really never any negative repercussions.
And to be fair, I mean, it's always been probation, not parole, but still.
Sorry, probation, but still, you have a guy who you're not taking anything away from. Like, this doesn't mean anything to Jon Jones, because this has happened to Jon Jones 6 times now, and every single time he just fights for the title in about 6 months. So if you're Jon Jones, why would you stop doing what you're doing? Like, I get we're all bored right now, we're supposed to be in quarantine, but the answer isn't to get in your car while liquored up and potentially fire your gun.
And again, like, you know, none of these allegations have been proven in court. So it'll be, you know, interesting to see how this transpires.
Also, worst time of the year to do something bad. Like, there's not a lot going on right now, especially in the world of sports. So if I was Jon Jones, or just anyone who is known to get up to some crazy stuff, I would just stay at home right now, because there's not a lot to talk about. I wish we could talk about, you know, NBA or Tony Khabib, not Coney Khabib, but right now there's a big void in the media, and especially sports media. So the second anyone does anything, all eyes are going to be on that. And for Jon Jones, like this, again, it's not your first time you've ever done this. So I don't know what they do. I'd like to be able to say, okay, there's a very clear path. They're going to strip him of the title. We're going to get Thiago Santos, Anthony Smith too, and we'll just move forward from there. But
it's not as easy as that.
No, exactly. There's such a big limbo around it, and you lack confidence in Jon Jones at a certain point. Like, is he going to fight again? I'd like to say he's going to fight again. He's probably going to fight again. Let's not get too crazy.
Now the conversation shifts, because it's not going to be, is it the winner of Smith Teixeira? Is it Jan Blachowicz? Is it not Corey Anderson? Is it Thiago Santos? Dominic Reyes? Or is it a move up to heavyweight? Throw that out the window, because none of that matters right now. It's just going to be interesting to see what they do. Do they strip him of the title? Do you have one of those top contenders battle it out like Dominic Reyes and Thiago Santos? Is that your next title fight?
I think you will have to start doing that at a certain point. And those two guys are the most likely, just because one had a split decision to Jon Jones, and the other one a lot of people thought should have beat Jon, but of course didn't go his way. So Dominic Reyes versus Thiago Santos would be the smartest move, I would think, but that has to be for a title. That's too big of a fight to just have as like a co-main event on a pay-per-view. I think that does need quite a bit of eyes on it. So personally, I don't know what the timetable for Santos' knees are. I know he tore, I think it was both ACLs, so he's going to need a long time to come back. Dominic Reyes, of course, just had a hard fight, so their timelines probably meet up a little bit, so by the time both guys are healthy, they'd be able to fight. But like you said, there's Anthony Smith, Glover Teixeira, there was the whole conversation of heavyweight, like that's all gone away right now. So it just puts the UFC in a really weird position, and we've said this a lot, like I'm not a Jon Jones fan, I'm not a Conor McGregor fan. The sport's a lot better when they're in it, though, and when they're actually active and competing, because every fight feels like a big fight when they're involved.
And I mean, look at the landscape in 2019, 2020. So even back to 2018, so you had Jon Jones taking on Gustafsson, then you had Anthony Smith, then you had Thiago Santos, then you had Dominic Reyes. It's best when your top pound for pound guys are fighting for their belt quite often. And I mean, you think of it, who's the most active champion? I can think of it, it's probably Valentina Shevchenko, because they just keep bringing her out there.
She's not really fighting top level competition, but I agree.
But it's good to see your top talent fighting often to get the most eyes on the sport. I mean, even in 2020, Jon Jones fights for a title against Dominic Reyes. Conor McGregor fights in a main event against Donald Cerrone. I mean,
the year got off to a pretty good start.
Yeah, it's pretty much the best of the best, and now all of that's clouded in what's next.
If you're an MMA fan, you want to see the people who are the best at doing what you like watching fight all the time. Would you not? Like, I don't like LeBron James, but when the Lakers are playing on TV, I'm going to watch LeBron James play just because I realize how good he is. Same with Jon Jones. Like, you might not even follow the sport, but you know, okay, when Jon Jones is fighting, like, that's one of the greatest athletes of all time fighting. So the fact that we're not talking about Jon Jones as not only the greatest MMA fighter, but just one of the all-time great athletes, and that we're talking about him as, oh no, he's the only guy who can beat himself in more terms than just one, it's really unfortunate that this is kind of the trajectory that his career's taken.
So we'll just have to see what happens. And I mean, with Fight Night Picks Perry and Counter, at least we're keeping ourselves busy and we're staying inside.
Exactly.
And not doing any crazy things. But listen, in terms of Fight Night Picks Perry and Counter, if you have any questions that you want to ask us, it's the best part of Fight Night Picks right now. I mean, really, it is
There's
a lot
no
of fun.
fights to pick. So.
It is a lot of fun. So if you can throw us questions, comments, what have you, down in the comment section below here on YouTube, we really appreciate it. We'll be back with more episodes of Perry and Counter coming up in the coming weeks. So Matt, as we always say with Fight Night Picks, let's get into it.